She said, you need to have the book finished by the weekend. And my first initial thought was, there's no effing way I'm going to be able to do this. But you know what I did? I made a decision because I remember thinking to myself, she must think I can do it. I thought, well, she thinks I can do it. Maybe I can do it.
Hey, you. Thanks for tuning in. Just a quick heads up, this episode is rated R, so expect that there will be some language that you may not want your kids to hear, lots of adult topics, and quite possibly some explicit conversations about sex. This episode is probably not safe for work, though, I guess it depends on where you work. Welcome to Pleasure Central Radio, the place to rethink the assumptions we don't even realize we are making that keep us from getting what we truly want out of work, life, and love. Here is your sneak peek into an authentic, pleasure-focused conversation. Hey there, and welcome to Pleasure Central Radio. I have a great conversation for you today. I have Brett Scott on the episode, and he is a coach and consultant. He calls himself a freedom facilitator and a coach. We talk about being honest with yourself, being bold, and being relentless in your goals as a way to get the most amount of pleasure out of your life. I've called this the reciprocity of honesty, pleasure, and satisfaction, and it's a fabulously entertaining conversation. I hope you enjoy it.
And it would be about, I would choose to do things just based on whether it would give me enjoyment. Whereas the way I operate now is, yes, of course, I still want to enjoy myself and still pleasure myself, but it's more about, for me, it's more about giving value and giving to others. And when I do that, of course, giving is the same thing as receiving. So you get it. So the more I give, the more I get anyway. And so I think for me, pleasure has really changed because it would almost be like I wouldn't have any real guidelines or real rules in life. Like I wouldn't, like now I operate with tangible, structured, I'm trying to think of the right word, like values. Yeah, structured values. And it's not like I just went, oh, this sounds like it should be a value I should use. It actually just became that. And a big part of it was the reason I was so focused on pleasuring myself previously was it was like the effect of me not being honest with myself, me not being truthful with myself and then in turn with others. And so the effect of me not getting to the root cause of what's going on was that I would just be out there trying to, like as an example, not something I share normally, but I would just be out there to party and I would take ecstasy and do drugs so that I could feel good, right? Which a lot of people do. But, it got to a point when I was 26 or 27, 26, where it was becoming quite a problem, like almost an addiction. Well, it was an addiction, but it wasn't totally out of control, but it was getting very close to the edge. And the partner I met, who became my wife, she kind of saved me in a way. Of course, she didn't do the saving, I saved myself, but having her around enabled me to, sorry about the noise, enabled me to focus on not going out as much and not partying as hard because I had a reason that I had to kind of be human, for a part. Because for me, when I would party, it would be like 2 or 3 days in a row,
Yeah,
not just
that's a lot.
one big night out. Anyway, but the point I'm trying to get at is I could go down the road of explaining what I understand pleasure to be in regards to being wholly selfish, to then switching to being, really understanding core values, my core values, which is giving more to others, which is also being true to myself. So not just because I was always a people pleaser. So even though I'd be so focused on getting what I want, I would still do and say things just to make people happy. So I'd be a real people pleaser. Now I'm not. now I'm focused on, is this truthful? Is this like, am I being honest with myself? And if I do what they want me to do, am I doing it like despite how I might feel? So would you like me to go in that road, or do you want me to talk about the book? And
no, I would love you to go in that road. And I don't mind if we just jump in right now. We can keep talking about it as is, and I'll cut things around if I need to. So what was it that really made the difference for you in that mind shift that allowed you to see pleasure differently?
So for me, what was interesting is, like, 2 years ago, I'm often telling people I finally had a breakthrough moment, but it wasn't just a breakthrough moment. It was the catalyst which actually helped me to keep moving in the direction of getting better every day. And it's built up so much momentum that I'm doing extremely well in business. I'm doing extremely well in life. You know, I always feel abundant, and that wouldn't have happened if I'd just been going down the road of the way I used to live. And someone else had me on a podcast once, and they said they were trying to come up with a catchy heading. And I must have mentioned to her that I felt like in life I was living a zombie existence, living a bit of a zombie existence, not truly living, not truly succeeding the way that I always imagined that I could or would. And what that meant is that I would, I was always, like, not always, often I was trying to treat these effects of what was going on in me pleasuring myself externally, which was, going out partying or spending money. Like, I would spend way more than I would earn, so I was always in that constant cycle of debt. And in fact, that caused a bankruptcy for me as well, because I couldn't handle it, so things get out of control. But I was at times trying to treat these outside effects of what was going on. The switch for me was when I actually started to do the work on the inside, when I actually started to really question what was going on, getting to the root cause of why I was doing these external things, why I was trying to make myself happy with these outside things. And in fact, the thing that I'm not so proud of is that I would do those certain external and not tell my wife, the person that I had committed to, and I was with her for 12 years, and I wasn't being honest with her about what was really going on. And the reason for it, well, one, I was selfish, but two, I was so worried about losing her. And I lost her in the end anyway. And the point is, like, and a part of that was that what I wasn't being honest with, I actually thought I had a sexual problem with my partner, as in I wouldn't want to have sex with her. Like, it would actually physically repulse me. Yet what was interesting about it, and I thought there was something seriously wrong with me, and there was, but not what I thought it was. And I can remember thinking, why do I feel this way? Because when I look at her, like, I unconditionally, well, there was a condition to it, but in its way, I unconditionally loved her. Like, I loved her without any real, I'll love you if this, or I love you if that. There was no real reason for it. I just loved her, and I thought she was beautiful, and I loved all of her personality. I never had a moment where I thought, you piss me off, or I hate you, or never had those moments with her, right? And so I really thought I had this serious mental issue. And the way I was looking at it was that, I needed like psychological help, because there was something really wrong. Why would someone who loves someone so much be so repulsed by them when sex came about? And so we didn't have sex for long periods of time. And if I did, it would be just because I thought, well, I can't, like, there's got to be a point where I allow it to happen. But it was so freaking difficult for me to do. And, and it started not as bad, but it started from the very first time that we even connected. But the reason I allowed it is because I mentioned earlier to you that I had a real problem with partying. And so when I met her, she was the first woman that I felt that deep, like almost knowing. I knew that I was going to marry her the moment I met her. Like I literally had an electric shock in my hand and all these thoughts raced through my head. And one of the thoughts, I could see her walking down the aisle towards me in that split second moment. I saw the future. And it was literally like, it sounds corny. It was literally like that movie, where fireworks go off. There weren't any fireworks, but it was an electric shock in my hand. And when she looked at me, her eyes were just mesmerizing. And I just knew that was the person for me. And I really needed someone like that at that point, or I felt like I did. I really needed someone like that. But we didn't have that sexual connection. And I thought, you know what, that's okay, because for 26, going on 27 years of my life at that time, when we talk about sex, I probably slept with definitely over 100, maybe close to 200 people, women, all women, female people. And, and so like the sex part of it, I never had a problem with. But the thing that I never really had, I would get to like 2 or 3 months and either I would break up with the person or she would break up with me. And so finally I meet this woman that I was just like, oh my gosh, this is the one. And so even though I didn't have that sexual connection, I thought, you know what, I can do without it. Like I've had so much of it, like it doesn't matter.
Right.
But let me tell you, you do need it. You do need it. You do need it. All of us need it.
I would have told you that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I didn't know you back then. It's interesting to go through, 12 years of not really being satisfied in that way. Definitely many moments of being alone. And, in fact, I think she caught me out watching pornography on a laptop one time. And, but it was difficult as well because, and I'm going a bit off track, but it was difficult. I remember thinking like how tough it must be for her because she must think there's something wrong with her. And I would always be trying to like really, I was trying to get across to her verbally, of course, that, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just me. Like there's something wrong with me. And in fact, I'm going to share way too much information here. Maybe. I got a condition, and I'm just trying to think of the name of it. I got a condition where my penis bent up.
Peyronie's?
Peyronie's, yeah. Peyronie's disease. That's it.
Yeah.
And yeah, and I remember thinking that I caused that, like mentally caused it. I didn't know I was going to cause that to happen, but I remember thinking I caused that to happen. I could use that as one of my excuses as to why I didn't want to have sex because it hurt.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, so it's interesting what you can bring on yourself, right, in these times. And the one thing is that, I don't know if I should say I'm proud of it, but the one thing is I never had another relationship to just fix that situation. I was still trying my best to be a partner, like to be that partner. So my marriage didn't end because I was unfaithful. My marriage ended because I was dishonest. I was dishonest, first of all, with me, but I was dishonest with her, and it all came out, and it was good. It definitely wasn't good at the time. Let me tell you, 6 years ago, I remember thinking my life is over. And I remember thinking, how did I get here? Because so many decisions I'd made along the way, and I've had some great successes, but every time that I'd reach a certain level of success, I'd find a way to fuck it up. And what's interesting about that is that, the way I look at success now and the way I did 6 years ago is very, very different when we talk about pleasure, because the moments of pure ecstasy, pleasure in feeling like a true success have been moments when I externally make a decision or something happens in my life and I can look back and think, how did that happen? And I go, oh my gosh, it's because I did this, 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 and this, and that's why this is here. And I feel so elated because I go, oh my gosh, I did the work. I did the work, and I've actually brought this into my life. Like, I don't have to think it was good luck. I don't think, wow, that miraculously happened. It didn't happen by chance. It happened because I actually did the work. I made things happen.
Yeah. And so
So
you
I
must have
think
intended it ahead of time, had some clarity about what you wanted.
I did. I really like, and that's the first thing I did like 2 years ago. Is one of the things that my coach, I finally invested in a coach. Like I was a real estate agent for nearly a decade, and I've achieved, the heights of that. And there was a point where multiple times where, the teacher would appear, the coach or the guide or the mentor, and I would never invest in it because I would think, oh, what a waste of money. Even though I know other friends and colleagues who had a coach or a mentor and they were getting even more success than me, but I was just thinking, I don't want to spend my money that I waste on other things. That's what I was doing, wasting money. I don't want to waste my money on, what is actually an investment. So when I invested in my coach, that's the first thing we did is like, what's one big thing that you want to go after? Like, let's get really laser focused clear on one big thing, because what it is, and this is what I train all my clients on now, like, it's not about you achieving the goal. Like, yes, that's going to be awesome when it happens, because it will, but it's not about you achieving the goal. It's about you growing. It's about you becoming the person that is actually ready for that. And importantly, it's enjoying the moments along the way. And that's why I have a real new understanding of success, or what success means for me. And it means different things to every person, as I've discovered as well. And there's pleasure in that.
I love that way that you describe that kind of pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was the one thing that you focused on?
So for me, it's a triple best-selling book. I've got a book which comes out, I was going to say this month, but it depends on when this comes out. But it comes out in January, end of Jan, maybe start of Feb, and it's called Supercharged Freedom. Your Truth Will Set You Free. So parts of it are the story of my journey and my life, but there's also a lot of lessons in it. And so I've actually got 10 chapters, and all the different structured lessons are all things that I've had to go through myself and still go through. And for me, the focus was on having it become a New York Times, Wall Street Journal, Amazon best-selling book. Now, I have a best-selling book. So I've got a book called I Fly, and I'm one of the group authors in that. And I'm very proud of it. Like, there's a reason why not only is it it is a triple bestseller on Amazon in 3 different categories, number one. It's also a Silver Stevie Book of the Year for 2020. And then we've also been picked up, and we're now in the Oscars gift bag for the nominated celebrities or guests that are attending. So, the thing that I love about this, well, one, I fly, I show up as Superman, so it kind of makes sense, doesn't it, that I'm in this book. But the reason I'm proud of it, it is just the story. Like, it's my story from basically breakdown to breakthrough, or, these are all stories of overcoming adversity, and there's 20 different stories. So I'm super proud of it. And, it was meant to be my second book. I finished the book that I just mentioned. I finished it in December of last year to go on. I don't know if any of your audience know Jack Canfield, but he's a really well-known thought leader. He wrote probably the most notable book that a lot of people know is Chicken Soup for the Soul. And he
I'm a
wrote
big
that
fan.
book. Yeah, you know that book.
No, the whole series of books.
Yeah, there's a series of them. And,
Yeah.
when the first one came out, my mum used to run a bookstore. And when it first came out, my mum said to me, oh, no, this book's just come out, and it's just like what I was actually working on. Like, my mum was putting away stories that she was all positive stories that she was going to turn into a book. Now, I told Jack this when I met up with him. I said, oh, my mum was actually disappointed when your book came out because you took her idea. And he said to me, well, just tell her that to get the book out. Like,
Yeah.
just because mine's out, that doesn't mean that she can't do hers. Like, and so I told her, you still got to do your book. You can't use that as an excuse. Jack has said, no excuse. You got to do it.
And now Jack has put out how many of those himself? So
he
lots
is
of them.
Yeah, he's at I think it was, I'm trying to remember the number. I heard him say it the other day. I think it was 180 or something. Like, it's a huge number of books. If you get, he took me into his personal library or studio that he operates from, And the amount of books, and he said, most of these books in here are mine. Wow. Like not just his that he owns, like actually his that he's written. And there are thousands of books. So obviously there's, multiples of particular books, but there are thousands of books in this room. But the reason I went to talk about Jack, getting back on the train of thought, because we're talking about pleasure, we're talking about, where did I go down that road with you?
I think it was about stories, good feeling stories.
Good feeling. Oh, yeah. So I was talking about I Fly. Yeah. So I had finished the book to go on his show, because the show he's got is called Talking About Success. So I wanted to have the book ready and finished, and I was hoping I'd have a cover for it so we could advertise it. Anyway, as I'd finished it, and I finished the book, this is an interesting thing, right? For anyone that wants to write a book, in the end, I ended up getting a book coach, and I was on a 6-month journey with the coach to write my book. And at the 4-month period, I'd finished how many chapters? I'm going to say 4. Yeah, I had 4 chapters finished, and I was really excited. Finished 4 chapters, and I told my coach, she said to me, how many chapters have you finished? Because I was working with one of her other coaches. And I said to her, I've finished 4 chapters. And she's like, you've got to be on Jack Canfield's show in December. And I think it was October. She said, and it was a Tuesday. And she said, you need to have the book finished by the weekend. I was like, what? Hang on a minute. I've just spent 4 months and I've got 4 chapters done. And you're telling me I need to have 6 chapters done in 3 days. And my first initial thought, I didn't say it out loud, but my first initial thought was, there's no effing way I'm going to be able to do this. But you know what I did? I made a decision, because I remember thinking to myself, she must think I can do it. I thought, well, she thinks I can do it. Maybe I can do it. And so I just made a decision. I said, okay. I said, Kat, I'll have it done by the weekend. And guess what? Wow. I had it done by the weekend. Now, I remember and this is how I did it. I remember thinking, I've got 3 days to do 6 chapters. Do the maths. It's not very hard. I need to have 2 chapters done every day. And so all I did was, I didn't think about having 6 chapters done. I just said to myself, let's just see how we go with one day. Let's see if we can get 2 chapters done. I canceled all my appointments for that week. And I said, no appointments. I've got to get this done. So I made the decision, and the first day I got 2 chapters done. I remember thinking about what I'd just written rather than reading over the whole thing. I thought, did I just write a whole lot of garbage, or is that actually good? And I thought, actually, I think that was good. Next day, 2 chapters done. Same thing. Is it crap? Is it good? No, I think it's good. And then the third day I did it, and I had the whole thing done, and I had the other coach go through it, and she thought it was okay. Then in the end, I'm fast forwarding a bit, but in the end, my main coach said, how about we send it to a structural editor just to see what they think? The structural editor, thankfully I didn't look at it until after I got back from LA in January. The structural editor ripped it to shreds, like tore the whole thing to shreds. And if you've ever written a book, if anyone's listening has written a book and had it reviewed or had an editor go through it, because I'm not a writer, I was looking at all these comments from her thinking, how the hell am I going to fix this? Like, it was just overwhelming. And I cried and I yelled at my book coach. I said, we should have had something better than this. What the hell? Why did I invest? Went off my head a little bit, pulled myself back in line. I very rarely ever do that. But that was just one of those moments, because this was my big goal, right? This was the big goal. But, this is the point, is that as we move along going towards the big goal, things are not going to work out. Things are going to feel like you've just lost, like this is crap. But you know what? My book coach said, because I had a meltdown, my book coach said, look, I don't do this with anyone, but I know the content of your book, because she was a client of mine as well. She said, I know the content. She said, I can help you rewrite it. Now I had to pay her more to do it, but I was like, yes, let's do it, because there's no way I can fix this. And I need, I'm not quitting on my goal. So I found another way to do it. Now I've finished it with her, and it is awesome. I've had other people go through it. It needs to be edited properly. And we are also going through we had some beta readers go through it. And so we're getting that part finished in the next week or so. And then it goes to the proper editor and they clean it up and then we get it printed. Now, I've got a little secret idea up my sleeve, because if anyone's listening thinking, well, how the hell are you going to make a New York Times and Wall Street Journal best-selling book? Like, who are you? Who's Brett D. Scott? I've never heard of that guy before. Sounds awesome, but I've never heard of him before. And I remember that because that was my thought. Like, how the hell, why did I even make a decision I'm going to make a New York Times and Wall Street Journal? Sure, Amazon, not most people, but anyone can, that's an easier task to actually make an Amazon best-selling book. Sorry about the noise. But I made the decision. So I remember thinking, how am I going to do this? Because I'm not a celebrity. I don't have a huge following. Like, how the hell am I going to do that? Like, and why did I decide I was going to do that? Well, the reason I decided to do that was because you don't need to know how. This is the thing. When you lock into big goals, the point is not to know how, because that's where growth is. If you know how to do it, even though you've never done it before, it might be a good goal, but it's probably not going to help you to grow, help you to become a new version of yourself. And that's what I know that's what I've become over this period of time. So the goal that I'm going at and still going after, I've had to reset it twice now. So it's reset for now. I set it for 19th of December, 2019. Now, on that day, I was on Jack Canfield's show. It was the only day I could be on his show, right? So that, like, when you're looking for, I'm going on a bit of a tangent, but I think it's going to make sense to people for when they're locking into goals. When you go after something really big and you haven't achieved it by the date that you set, because it's just a date that you set, then you're going to need to reset it. But for me, that day was literally the day I was on his show. And so for me, it told me, you know what, you're on the right track. You're talking about the book. You're talking about this. So you must be on track. Just reset the date. So I reset it for the following 19th of December. It's my birthday, by the way, of 2020.
Happy birthday.
Now, thank you. Now, the day that I was in America was actually the 18th of December. But in Australia, it's the 19th of December. So here in Australia this year, my goal is still the 19th of December, but on the 18th of December, so the same day as I was on Jack Canfield's show, I'm receiving my Silver Stevie Award for my book of the year, which obviously I'm only one of 20, but still my part of the book obviously helped.
Wow.
And so that showed me again, like, it's like the universe saying, don't give up. You're on the track. You're on the right path. Keep going. So now I've reset it for 6 months. So 2.5 years I will have been working on this goal, right? And when I achieve it, because I will, when I achieve my goal, whether it's in 6 months or I have to reset it, who knows? Doesn't matter. But when I achieve it, I then have to lock into something else big, something I've never achieved before, something that I think, how the hell are you going to do that? So the little thing up my sleeve that I was kind of getting at is an idea that doesn't matter whether it's something that no one has ever done with a book. And I don't know whether it's going to be the thing, but I'm going to try it and I'm going to see whether it does what I think it could do. And if it does, then it changes everything. Like, it'll change everything for the book industry. It'll change everything for my ability to influence more people, because that's the big picture. Like, when I think about in this book, no one can see it, but I'm going to hold it up for you. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. In that book, there's so many good things. But in this book, it talks about working out what is your definite chief aim in life. Like, what is it that you want to be, long-term, so focused on getting to? And that is the big picture for me. The big picture for me, I had a breakdown moment in 2014 where I had a big financial upheaval. It caused the demise of my marriage, because I had to then be a bit more honest about what had actually really gone on in life, not just on that incident. And we were pregnant at the time. But in that moment, I remember before I went and told her the good news, which it wasn't, of course, before I went there, I remember crying for the first time as an adult. Maybe that's quite typical for men, but I remember crying for the first time as an adult. And I said two things to myself. Number one, I said, I never want to be this type of man again. Like, I never want to be in this type of situation again. And number two, I remember saying, when I figure out how to fix myself, I should write a book and help other stupid men like me, because that's how I felt at the time, figure out how to fix their life as well. So in that moment, 6 years ago now, I remember that was my mission. Like, that was my purpose. That was my definite chief aim. So, and it's not just men now, it's like men and women, it's people. And so my big picture is, I don't want to be like, fame isn't a thing that I'm searching for. Like, what I'm searching for is to make a bigger impact. And for me to be able to do that, that's why I locked into this book idea, because if I become a well-known person for this book, then it starts to, it becomes dominoes. It starts to lead me in the direction of what it is that I'm like. For me, being a coach, I'm a coach for many people now. That was an idea that I had for 2 years down the track. It ended up happening in 6 months because it's a part of the story, right? That needed to come earlier. It needed to come for me writing in my book, because some of those experiences are in the book, and the book wouldn't have as much body if I didn't become that coach myself. And so that's what, so I'm going to go right back to the start. When we think about what is the difference between the pleasure that I experience now and the pleasure I used to receive in the past, is that in the past, I felt like I was really reacting to life. I was reacting to, like, I wouldn't do things or I'd quit because of all my excuses. Oh, I've never been able to do that. Oh, well, you don't understand. I've got all these different things happening, so I can't do this. Other excuses, which are just bullshit, And so the point is, now I'm so focused on doing the right thing for me, and in turn doing the right things for others. And I'm so focused on being in control of my life, not stiff. I'm allowing life to happen, but I'm also not allowing life to be the reason. I'm not allowing life to be the reason why I don't do things or why I have excuses. I changed my perspective.
That's really lovely. I've just been reading this interesting book called Turning Pro. Have you heard of that?
No.
You might really enjoy it. It's essentially 3 or 4 hours. I listened to it on Audible. 3 or 4 hours of the difference in mindset between an amateur/addict and a professional at any given thing. It doesn't matter what it is. It's pretty fantastic.
I'll definitely have to check it out. I've written it down, Turning Pro. I'm going to check it out.
Yeah. And it makes me think about, there's something that's been ringing in my head for the last day. Somebody said it and it just really struck for me. They said, when you can't get what you want, and I'm relating this back to what it sounded like when you were married, when you can't get what you want, you learn to need what keeps you from dreaming.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Yeah, what's interesting is her and I were doing, we had vision boards and we're doing things which were, deemed positive and personal development its way, but I was never really giving it a full commitment. And, and part of it, it's an excuse, but part of it was because I wasn't being honest with myself about what was really going on in my relationship. And the biggest thing was, for both of us, is that we were so focused on not being in a broken marriage. That's why neither of us would have said, it's not working, let's divorce, because we both came from broken marriages, and our focus growing up was to find a partner that we wouldn't break up with. And that's why I recognize, when I get to like a 3-month period, in my mind I was always thinking, is this person I want to be with for the rest of my life? And if it's a no, well, I'd rather be single, rather go and have some fun, rather going to go and have some more sex. That would be the focus.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Hey, lovely. I hope you don't mind, but I have to get going shortly, only because I've got to get to an inspection for a new property to live in.
Okay. Do you want to wrap it up and let us know how we can get connected with these books and with you?
Yes, absolutely. So my website is brettdscott.com. I'm going to advertise the book there. There's going to be the Something Special, which should hopefully have an ability to put it out there to a bigger audience, maybe quite possibly New York Times, Wall Street Journal. Go, wow, this book, amazing. We better review it, and now we better make it a bestseller because everyone's buying it. That's kind of the idea. So I'd suggest the easiest way is to get onto brettdscott.com, register your details, even if it's just, at the moment, I don't think it has register for the book, but register your email in there, and then I'll definitely make sure I reach out and we'll connect. You can also, on social media, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. On Instagram, it's BrettDScott_freedom coach, BrettDScott_freedom coach. Brett and Scott both have double T's. And then on Facebook, it's Brett D. Scott or Freedom Coaching by Brett D. Scott. They're the easiest ways to find me. LinkedIn, I'm not as active, but I'm on there.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I'm really looking forward to checking out the Supercharge book. I'm curious how you took yourself and then decided to take those lessons and put them into a book. So I've created an actual program with the 10 chapters. I've turned them into lessons. So because they are lessons. So I thought, this makes sense. I'll just create my own program out of it. And it's coming together really good. I'll have that ready in the next couple of weeks as well. So if anyone wants to sort of get onto the book and the program, I'm going to have both things available as well. Awesome. Can I ask you what platform are you using to deliver your program?
It's a good question. I haven't actually locked it in yet. I've got 2 different things that I'm actually working on. So there's my son.
Hi there.
You say hi.
Hi.
But yeah, I've got 2 different platforms that I'm looking at. The one that I use my website on actually has the ability to do it. So I may do that, but I'll let you know. Yeah, I'll email you, let you know the name of it.
Cool. I'm a big fan of Mighty Networks myself. It's a great way to deliver courses and create a community at the same time.
I know. I heard you talking about Mighty Networks before, so I'll have to definitely check it out.
Yeah. And I believe she does a 5-week community creation course starting in January. I took that course a couple of months ago. It was fantastic. Really helpful, very clear. Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll get onto that.
Yeah. There you go. Yeah. You'd have it up and running by the end of January.
There you go. Let's do it. I'll check it out for sure. 100%.
Great. Well, it was lovely having you on the show. Thank you, Brett.
I appreciate you having me. Thank you, lovely. I'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Hey, Pleasure Seeker. Well, that's it for today's conversation. Here at Pleasure Central Radio, we love using conscious communication, science geekery, and copious amounts of true pleasure to improve our partnerships, our money, and our love lives. And we hope you do too. If you loved what you heard here, we'd love a review. You can listen to other episodes of the podcast and read thought-provoking essays or poems written by me, Radiant Rebecca, by checking out the blog on pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Sign up to hear about new episodes immediately at pleasurecentralpodcast.com. Your thought to ponder today is:
when you lock into big goals, the point is not to know how, because that's where growth is. If you know how to do it, even though you've never done it before, it might be a good goal, but it's probably not going to help you to grow, help you to become a new version of yourself.